couple of weeks, there's a heck of a lot of bike racing coming up with the 3 days of Japan and the Classic. So the teams really are spread quite thinly.
Kiyienka on the front for Sky, as he so often is. He gets more TV time, I think, than Bradley Wiggins. Certainly at the moment.
Looks comfortable, doesn't he? Looks very comfortable. He's hardly breathing.
Bit of a surprise they didn't send him to Wevelgem, the way they're splitting their teams around. He did a manful job in Milan-San Remo in the cold last week. Is that Gadre for AG2R? He's on bottle duty for the AG2R squad, of course. They
active in the Classics and keep going to the Tour. Just wants to race, doesn't he? Always wants to race, and you know, you can see how disappointed he is that he's been caught. You know, he doesn't sit there. He's the opposite of Kiyienka. Kiyienka sits there, he's planted on the bike, he doesn't move, there's no facial expression, he just drives it. Tommy Voeckler's almost having a conversation with himself, going along there, pulling the facial expressions, disappointed that they're coming back. It's very strange indeed.
But you're never left in any doubt that he's feeling intense emotion, and the emotion is usually anger, frustration.
Yeah, look here, he said, oh, we've been caught. Now what? I'll go on the attack then. I'll have an attack at the bottom of the climb. But just Kiyienka, still on the front. Don't forget 14.2k, I think this climb is. So they've only got 11.5k to go, so they're well onto the slopes now. And the bottom of the climb is about 6%, 6.5%. Ramps up in the middle to 7, 8%, and then eases off a bit until that penultimate kilometre, which is an average of 10.4 kilometres.
Very impressive performance by Kiyienka. Yeah, we expected him to go backwards, but he's and I think Sky really need Kiyienka to be able to do this for as long as possible, because then they look a bit vulnerable as soon as he goes missing. Yeah, absolutely. Very impressive performance from Vasil Kiyienka up front, doing a great job for Richie Porte and indeed for Chris Froome of the Sky team. Remy Poirier of Soyasun, 23 seconds down after the time trial. But, he's met his Waterloo at this point in every group. That'll tell you.
Oh, Kiyienka's pulling some faces. This must be getting hard.
I think he's close to having done his thing. And tell you what, he's doing a good job, because Chris Froome, for all that his style isn't exactly super elegant, he looks as if he's struggling a little bit. Another one of the Saxo Bank Tinkoff riders. That Hernandez, who's cried enough at this point, and now the group is down to not much more than 20 riders.
Looked like there was another Saxo Bank rider coming off the back there, and I think Kiyienka, like you say, if facial expressions are anything to go by, he's got a couple of 500 metres left in him at the most.
And Kiyienka's really struggling now, isn't he?
Yeah, and you know, as we said, the facial expressions say that he's really struggling, but he's still sat on the front, and no one else is capable or willing to attack at the moment. Tommy Voeckler, we can see here, just fighting away to stay in the group and just edging his way further and further towards the back, in and out the saddle. I would say if it was any other rider that they're looking uncomfortable, but that's just Tommy Voeckler. You know, Sky's tactic, we were talking earlier, Sky's tactic is sitting on the front and setting the pace. You've got to change the pace, as you said. You've got to make it stop, start, stop, start. Really disrupts their rhythm and doesn't play into their hands of how they train. The problem is they're able to go up these climbs so hard and so fast that, you know, one attack and they'll just sit there and let you go and just slowly bring you back. We saw in a race the other week, I can't remember which one it was, that 2 or 3 guys decided to get together and attack, and I think it was Jürgen van der Broek. Here we go.
Now here comes the attack from the IAM team, and it's Chop, Jürgen Chop, the Swiss rider for the Johann Chop, I should say, for the IAM cycling squad. Johann Chop is not really a threat overall. He's 38 seconds down on the leader, Richie Porte, so it's don't really see him gaining the 28 seconds plus the 10 seconds bonus. Having said that, don't rule it out at the moment. Has a little look behind, perhaps not enjoying it. His lead at the moment is still less than 10 seconds, and that is it for Kiyienka. So now it's up to Chris Froome as Richie Porte puts the man who finished second in last year's Tour de France on the front to see what he can do. Great effort from Vasil Kiyienka, and certainly we should doff our cap to him. He's currently 12th overall, but that was never really his big ambition. It was all about trying to get the overall victory. Try and do something about closing down this very dangerous group indeed, as Chris Froome moves over and asks Johann Chop to do something. Pero is sitting in his wake. A little conversation between Froome and Perro about who's going to do it, and Froome says, well, I'm not happy with that, and he attacks it. We don't see this so often from Chris Froome, and it's great to see. And look at the pressure that he's put Jean-Christophe Perro under, and very impressive reaction, you'd have to say, from Johan Chop, who had created this initial attack, but clearly he's got great legs today.
I'd be cutting a bit of a deal with Chop right now. Chop's not going to win it. He can't hold Chris Froome's Wetherhood. That's that question answered. Both of them gone, and Chris Froome's off.
It's solo time trial, hill time style for Chris Froome as he heads towards glory, but he's still got a whopping 5 kilometers of this hill to complete. And now Chop and Perro are having a bit of a conversation. I don't think this is a time for talking. This is just a time for riding his bike.
In front of him from AG2R, but now he's straight up, and he goes straight past him.
Well, that's interesting. He decided to attack the... Richie Porte immediately realised that there was a gap between TJ Van Garderen himself and the riders behind. He goes straight past and looks as if he's caught Van Garderen napping, so it's an opportunity for Richie Porte to at least salvage something from this. It's really hard to see that anything except an overall victory, and certainly a stage victory for Chris Froome, is going to eventuate here. But Richie Porte has managed to get a few bike lengths advantage over TJ Van Garderen, who can see it all going up in smoke. At the moment, the only thing he's really got to ride for is the young rider classification. And here comes Richie Porte up to the trio up front of Bauke Mollema.
So he's still on for second in this race. Richie Porte is still on for second because Bauke Mollema is still in this group. Chris Froome, I think, is done and dusted and gone. But they obviously want first and second, and there you go, straight
past. Yeah, it looked as if he was going to try and attack, and the cars on the right-hand side perhaps prevented him, and Bauke Mollema isn't able to react. Look at this. What a performance from the Sky team, because now the yellow jersey of Richie Porte is riding solo and chasing his teammate. Seems unlikely at this point that he's going to be able to get to him, but what an amazing performance by the Sky Pro Cycling Squad. Another wonderful performance throughout the weekend for this team, led by Chris Froome, and also ably assisted by Richie Porte, who's worn the jersey with distinction today, but very much played it as a team player. And now as he hits the last 500, well, there's got to be at least 15-20 seconds between them. Porte has a little look behind just to make sure that the other riders aren't coming up behind, because he knows at this stage that he's not going to take victory in Criterium International. That honour is going to go to his teammate Chris Froome, who takes his second stage race success of the season, and the man who would be king, who would take the Tour de France title from Bradley Wiggins in July. Well, he's had a little preview in Corsica with victory in Criterium International. Points at the Sky logo as if to say this was a team success, and it absolutely and certainly was. It's over 3 seconds now. It doesn't matter. He's got the bonus seconds, and he's got victory in the stage race. So all smiles for Chris Froome as his teammate Richie Porte comports himself for the final few meters, has a little look behind, and knows that he too can celebrate what has been a wonderful weekend of racing for Sky on the island of Corsica. Eventually finishes just under 30 seconds behind. Great ride by him. Disappointment, I think, perhaps for the Australian that he wasn't able to close it out all the way to the line. TJ Van Garderen isn't even going to get third. It looks as if Bauke Mollema is going to take third on the line, and with it the bonus seconds, and Van Garderen a disconsolate fifth.
Would have been really interesting to see what sort of greeting Richie Porte and Chris Froome gave each other, just to see if you know, the teammates and the teamwork sort of ethic were there, or if yeah, there you go.
Well, and it is absolutely, there is very, very strong morale in that team.
And you know what, from what happened last year